live. Welcome back to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. My name is Bridget. I'm joined by my fellow coaches, Terry, Carol, and Josh, and we're excited to be here. Terry, you want to kick us off? What's been going on?
Well, thank you for that lovely intro, Bridget. We're starting to have like something on ESPN or CNN now, you know.
You do the intro, rookie.
Yeah. I totally just threw Bridget a curveball. I said, Bridget, why don't you do the intro? You did fabulously. Okay, so what's happening? So interestingly enough, Bridget and I had a conversation with a client in our Slack channel yesterday, and it's about, I'm going to call it, preface this by, let's make a deal. Those of you who've been around the block a few times, maybe you have familiar with, used to be a game show, I don't know, maybe it's still on, called Let's Make a Deal. And what we mean by that is you have the client, and always starts with, oh, I'm a regular client. It always is someone that, like, I want to just say, thinks they're entitled to something, and writes that, well, and you know, I'm on the membership, but I'm going to be traveling, and I'm going to be here home on these dates, and then I'm going to be gone, and then with that. And so I just was wondering, what kind of deal could you make for me? Because I'm not going to be here, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so it's this whole, let's make a deal about pricing, and talking about your pricing is arrived at because of certain factors, and that we shouldn't feel that it's open for negotiation. Now, different than someone genuinely comes to you and it's a financial hardship, right? And we've talked about that, and there's lots of things you can do in that situation. But we're just straight up talking about someone who's like, you know, going to be in and out of town in the summer and not sure if their membership's going to make it, and doesn't want to pay the price for a regular 10-pack and blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, let's make a deal. So how, I know we're all doing this, we're all shaking nuts. So how, as a business owner, how do you manage that? How do you stand firm in your pricing without wanting to piss people off and have a negative impact? And straight up, first, I'm going to say you should never apologize for your pricing. I mean, do you go into the grocery store and negotiate what you want to pay for a gallon of milk or eggs, right? And so it's just like, why do we feel like we have to do that there's less value? And here's a little bit of a kicker too, is if someone really does see the value of your product, we're going to talk a little bit about this whole boutique thing, is should they even be talking about, I don't know if I'm going to get enough value out of this, so I want a better deal. So one could almost argue that maybe the product needs a little more work, the product being your yoga class, because then ideally, if you have a fabulous product, then the conversation about a deal on pricing becomes irrelevant, particularly if it's someone who's been coming a while. Josh.
Yeah, just that you're right. I mean, the product thing, in theory, that's the right theory in my mind. If the product is valuable enough, price is obsolete, is the thought. And that we see that in the psychology of purchasing with people. And people are gonna, like, I would be this person, and I'm maybe not the absolute norm, but I'll ask for a deal somewhere. Like, just like, I don't know, maybe it's because I've been a business coach for too long. I'll be somewhere, I'm like, I've already decided I'm going to buy it. I've already decided I'm happy with this product. That I won't be derailed by that. But if I sense that there's any manipulation, like I could get a better deal or a better equation in what I'm getting, I'll just ask for it. And the thing that's amazing is how often I get it. And I mean, literally, like, the most obscure random places. I was going on a whale watching tour, and the boats are full all the time. And I started talking to the biologist or whatever about whales, because I used to work on a boat as the biologist, and I worked at a science center. And then I just turned to the lady at the ticket thing, and I was like, cool, so like we're signing up for this, and be 4 of us. It's really great. It's $200 a person or whatever. I'm like, I don't want to pay that much per person. That's all I said. She's like, okay, how about 180? I was like, great. That's it. She could have said, fuck you, it's $200. And I would have still said, okay, cool. So I'm just saying, sometimes I wouldn't interpret the ask as a negative thing. And the reason I bring that into the equation is I think that owners, like, we have so much weight when you own a studio of someone does a fucking charge back and this person complains that, and can you add the class this, and my staff wants a raise here, and like there's all the stuff. So then someone comes and is like, hey, I'm special, can you make me a special deal, Terry? But accidentally we interpret that as offensive, and it's maybe not meant to be. And so just, if that's the case, if you were to just like generically approach it as Carol asking for this thing, it's not meant to be offensive, it's just Carol asking a question, that also decompresses it so that I don't have to give Carol anything. Like, it's there. I don't know. To me, somehow, like, reconciling that in my mind makes it easy for me to then look Carol in the eye and be like, no, we don't have anything like that, but this might be a good path for you. And just repeat my exact same pricing, like not do anything. Good, Bridget.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, that it's not, you don't have to. I think there's like two mindset things that go into this from like an owner's perspective. One is that like you don't have to interpret this in any way. Some people are like Josh and my stepdad, who will just ask for a fucking deal anytime, and that's their prerogative. Like, there's literally nothing. You are only causing yourself pain by seeing this as a problem. And like Josh said, it can just help like decompress you from feeling that pressure of like, oh, she's entitled and now I need to, and also I do think there could for sure be some entitlement behind it. Of course there could. I also think this falls into the category of one of the things, one of the indicators that someone hasn't ever worked in a service industry job is like asking for, especially this specific question that this woman asked. There's just some stuff that comes up where you're like, oh, you've never done this before. Okay. But the other mindset thing that I think is really important, and this was such an important shift for me, and I actually haven't, I wonder if you guys have any thoughts about this, because I can't right now off the top of my head think about like all the things that went into this change, but I had to get to a point where I wasn't afraid to lose a client. And I think so many owners are absolutely like so afraid of losing one member, losing, getting one bad Google review, like, and every decision they make has like the tension of that like on top of it. And if you can let go of that tension, your life is going to get so much better.
I love what you said about the Google review, right? Because that, I think that I'm going to get a bad Yelp. There is sometimes that whole fear of I'm going to get that. And here's how you overcome that. It's like you respond to those reviews. Like in fact, the guy just messaged me. I'm getting a new storm door. I'm finally getting a new storm door. Mine is not, it's falling apart, blah, blah, blah. So I called around. I got some quote. I got a quote. And I'm reading the reviews. And of course, I always read the negative reviews. I start with the negative reviews. I want to see what people are saying. And a couple of reviews were like, didn't call back, and then this and that, and something like this, then quality and the price. And I'm reading the reviews, and the one was brilliant. The owner was like, this is really interesting because we checked our records and we don't even have a record of you having someone dispatched to your house. So maybe you're getting us. It was basically like the person was just being a jerk and writing negative reviews. So I think it's not, if you're fearful of that, you just respond to the review and point out that, this is what you tried to do. And then reasonable people are going to read that and go, oh, this person's just a jerk, which is what I did with almost every negative review, the 1-star review that I read. The people were just being jerks.
We had the other, like, a competitive yoga studio in town. We were the hot, like, there was more than one hot yoga studio, but we were like the hot studio. And then there was a non-heated studio that, like, their whole marketing play for their first 2 to 3 years, first 2 years especially, was shit on us and shit on hot yoga. That was their marketing play, inclusive of, because it's a small town, we know who everyone is. They went on and left bad Google reviews on our thing too. We were like, what the fuck? But so whatever. I like, one of them was the lady's husband, who was a surgeon in town too. And so that was a funny one. That's all we did. Like, didn't get upset. Just, first off, we complain. You can complain to Google. There used to be a path for that. Anyways, we're like, hey, this person's never been in our business, so I don't know why we're leaving this review at all. And we just responded, and we're just like, hey, like, according to our records, you've never actually taken a class with us, or stepped foot in the studio, or purchased or booked anything with us ever. And I think also Mara was probably part of it too, actually. It was like, Charlie, why don't you come and try a class? Like, that's how it ended. Something like that, like, just called it out. Anyways, I feel like sometimes negative reviews actually are to your benefit, because if you get 3 negative reviews out of 100, that makes you seem like a real place. If you have 100 5-star reviews, they're like, this seems like it might be fake. And then, especially if the reviews like that, like, they never called me back, whatever. It's very clear reading the review. You're like, I don't know, you're having a bad day. Like, these guys clearly didn't fuck up. You're just grumpy about something. That makes you almost, I don't know, it's almost better for you. But tying this back to Bridget's point, the fear of losing a client, this is a power thing. I think that we don't like to use the word power for some reason in the boutique fitness world. But like, if you take it specifically to yoga, like, this is yoga 101. Power is a conversation. It is part of this dynamic. The word hak means force. You have to use power. And so power is only negative if it's misappropriated to take advantage of someone else. That's not the same thing as empowerment, for power for yourself. And that's done through, Bridget, what you're highlighting, in my opinion, which is like, you can't come from fear around things like giving Carol enough control that because I might lose her as a member, I'm going to just completely change the boundaries and rules of my business. Like, that doesn't actually make any sense. Not because it matters about Carol, but like, for me, the owner, that would matter. That disempowers me over time and creates, that's, to me, this is one of the pieces of the puzzle that is not seen on the road towards burnout. When we talk about entrepreneurial burnout, this is the stuff that, yeah, I don't know, adds to it in a really heavy way. We look at burnout only as like, oh, I'm so busy. It's not. It's energetic drain.
I was going to say about being, basically, it's okay to fire a client, and just to say, that I'm just getting the feeling that this isn't a good fit for you, right? And again, energetically, that sometimes can be like a relief. And the people that are constantly pushing the boundaries, those clients. And then I said the entitlement, because when anybody starts an email off with, I've been a long-time semi-regularist member, right? It's like, to me, that's saying they're expecting something just because they've been patronizing the business for a number of years. But it is okay. And guess what? You will survive. You will survive. I've been going back, I haven't had hashtag Terry's dad in a while. So hashtag Terry's dad, years ago, my dad ended up firing one of our largest clients. And this was a client in a small business. We sold office furniture, and they did like tens of thousands of dollars a year with us, which for a small business is huge. But the problem is every order they would bitch about the order. They would like go over with a fine tooth comb. Oh, there's a scratch here, this, and they always found a problem with the order. They were always changing their mind, and and then they wouldn't pay, and they just would like drag payment out. And we spent so much time trying to collect the money. They're constantly 90 days past due because they would pay the oldest, and playing that whole game. So they cleaned up the account, went there and said, this is it, we're done. And the client didn't even believe him at first. And so my dad actually had a special rubber stamp made that said, account closed, talk to so-and-so about it. And any order PO that came in, this happened for like 30, 60 days after, we would just send it back. And you want to know what? Yeah, we took a hit for a while, but it just energetically, it freed up my brother, it freed up my father. We weren't, the bookkeeper wasn't spending an inordinate amount of time trying to reconcile everything. And within 4 months, my brother had gone out and found 4 other clients that were way better, more profitable, and less hassle.
Right, and energetically less cost.
And energetically was so much better.
Well, so hang on, let's back it up a second here. Like, someone asks you for a deal. Practically speaking, Carol, what do you do? Like, what's the actual step 1, 2, 3 to respond?
The very first thing I thought when Terry mentioned this at the top of the show is no is a full and complete sentence. Point
Nice.
blank period. No. I mean, we don't do that. And just like you said, in a very polite way, this might work better for you. You know, here's what I can do. Obviously, you don't want to be an asshole about it, but like it's fine to say no. And I love what Bridget said. Like there is definitely a place, especially if you're trying to gain members and you're sort of in the early stages and you don't feel really solid with your client base. Like it is scary to say no to somebody like that. But I get a sense that, you know, clients talk. You start doing that for one person, you got to do it for the next person. And I feel like they're like, Josh, they just smell it in the water. Like, you know, you're going to start getting more and more. And it does lead to that energetic burnout. Like you guys have highlighted it so well. And so, yeah, I mean, because I think once you make that decision as the owner, like there are certain people that will still push. I remember, I know exactly who the people were that were going to keep asking, and we just kept saying, no, sorry, we don't do that, you know? And it's like, but they kept coming, you know, like that's the thing. But they just would ask and we say no. I mean, it's really simple actually.
It's almost like keep it simple. Like it'll be easier if you keep it simple and stick to your guns.
Yes.
I feel like there's probably more of a like communication question here than a policy question. I think this is a good example of where an owner would often ask us a policy question around this, and it doesn't need to be like what are your prices? That's the price. So this is actually a communication question to your point. No is a full and complete sentence. I like that. I feel like there's a tremendous amount of empowerment, not only personally, but actually for your client and the relationship in the long haul too, for you to be like, no thanks. Like, no thanks, here's what we can do.
I always say my most loyal clients are often the ones where they came in hot with like, this isn't working for me, this isn't working for me, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
And I came back at them being like, that doesn't belong here. That's not how it works around here. Why? Literally, I can think of 3 off the top of my head where at one point early on, I was like, hey, this just might not be a good fit for you. Here's a couple other ideas. And then they were like, no, I really want to go here. And they have not bothered me since. Like and they are
set
like
precedent.
years and years and years. And I do think sometimes that kind of energy from a client, they actually don't like sensing weakness in you, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's definitely not like it's more simple than it is easy, but if you can find that in yourself to just be like, okay, I'm going to set this boundary. It's hard, but I'm going to do it. And I think you'd be really surprised at what happens on the other side of that.
It's funny you say that. I agree. I think that the people because I can think of 2 or 3 clients even from years ago that I would have had. One woman came in and was like, I'll give you $600 for an annual. Like that was the pitch. And I was like, what? No, like that's not a thing. But she practiced for 10 years with us and kept asking for a deal, to Carol's point. I think the other comment I would make here though is like the sticking to your guns, whatever. From a sales perspective, like when we look at objection handling and sales around price, this is kind of like that. And so sometimes you have to just realize this person is asking you to change the price or a special package or whatever, and they are practicing with you. And in asking you for this deal, they're telling you they want the product that you're offering, and they're physically standing in front of you, staring you in the face, or like sending you the email, like they're going through that effort. So you can flip it on them a little bit by just like changing the frame of the conversation, because we're clearly not talking about price, or like price doesn't really matter, I guess, comparatively. Like you clearly want what we have. Like I would even ask that question, Bridget. I mean, we love having you practice here. You've been practicing for a long time. I think this would be a good option. No, I'm not. I don't like that. I want to have it. If they push back even more, like, well, I don't know. Like you, does this work for you? Do you like practicing here? Are you going to keep practicing here? We like having you here. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so what's the problem? Just what are we talking about here? You know? Go ahead, Terry. Well, speaking of pricing then,
Yes.
it started to come up, the conversation has started to come up about summertime. And reminder, this is a moment where you get to be a leader. Pay attention to the internal cultural language, conversation, energy you put in your studio. If you start to talk like, oh, summertime in Vancouver, Vancouver's the best summer city on the planet, which it is, by the way. People don't want to practice Legree anymore. Wrong. Like that's not a thing. But if you start, or oh, my yoga studio, like if we're in the low season, people aren't going to come as much. What can I do? Maybe I should have a deal. Then your staff starts to think like that. I've literally stood at the desk and heard staff say to clients, oh, well, you know, summertime, it's pretty slow then. So like we don't realize you're planting this seed across the board of your entire organization and all the people participating in it that, oh, it's summer, so like you should not take your practice seriously anymore. That doesn't make sense. Like that's just not how that works. And also, it's not actually true behaviorally. People don't like to hear that, but that's not actually true. What's true is that the habitual frequency of practice might look different if you're a high season place. It doesn't mean people just completely quit or don't want to or don't find the value in it. And in fact, there is a small group of people that increase practice frequency during the summer months. And there's another group of people who only practice in summer months. That's true in all studios. But we don't talk about them. We only talk about, oh, I have less members. So just, I'll let you guys kick off some of the practicalities of this with deals and stuff. But just I think most importantly, like be careful of what you're projecting. If you create your reality, law of attraction, whatever woo thing, whatever you want to call it, just be careful, because that's the number one thing that I see is nothing's happened yet, and studio owners have already decided summer is gonna. Like, the first year in business, you've never even had a summer yet, and you're like, oh, summer's slow. That's how prevalent it is. Be careful of that.
I think, you know, I thought we go through this every year, and I think a lot of it just goes back to the whole the school calendar, you know, with our school gets out in May, summertime, people travel, blah, blah, blah. I think it's everybody's, this whole sense of it's summertime, therefore it changes. And I think that goes back to like the traditional school calendar with kids. They go to school in September, they get out in May, June, and so the summer. And I don't know why that seems to permeate through the cultural phenomenon, particularly here, I think in North America. I don't know if that's either here or there. But yeah, I've said it all the time. It's like summer. Yes, and Carol, you were saying before is that yes, attendance may slow down in the summer. And you mentioned it too, Josh, but it does not have to equate to less revenue. And I think that's what we need to disassociate, because yes, it typically will slow down in the summertime. Classes maybe won't be as full in the summertime, but that does not have to mean you have less revenue. Because in my 2017, 18, and 19, my June, July, and August revenue-wise were better than my January, February, March. I kept, at one point I'm like, when the hell is it going to slow down? I was kind of looking forward to it slowing down a little bit, just to sort of have that mental pause, and it didn't happen. And I think it's because we really focused on disconnecting and encouraging people to practice, and because of the product, that people wouldn't necessarily cancel their membership as they were going away. Maybe they didn't come in, like you said, Josh, as frequently, but they still came in. Maybe they didn't. And I think that's the difference.
Here's the other KPI to check, right? Is look at individual practitioners per month, not just because frequency and number of frequency is what maybe changes for people. And again, not everyone. If we look at most studios and then you look at the average across the whole studio, in January, the average practice frequency is 5 across the board in a yoga studio. Okay. In August, which would be debatably the lowest month, the average practice frequency is 4.7. Like it's fucking 5. That's how many times people practice per month. Super blended average across the whole thing. It's just your person who practices from October through to April, 5 days a week, every week, whatever. And then if you live in whatever Canada, and now it's light out at 5 a.m. and light till 11 p.m. and they have their 2 weeks vacation, like that's the only time you want to take a vacation unless you're leaving the country. Like, of course, their total practice frequency for that 2-month time frame is less. But if you do it right, they're not going to cancel. They'll probably just stay in the same membership or have something, and they'll still get a practice in during that time. You just see them less, and your brain is like, oh, I see Terry every day. Now I don't see Terry every day. People don't practice. But your brain's probably not registering the 6 other people who are brand new, you've never thought of, who are practicing actually quite a bit, because they're like, this is great for the summer. I get up in the morning because it's warm out, so you got to reframe. The KPI is look at individual clients. One thing that we looked at, and I've done this at a few studios, be interesting for us to do a case study on like aggregated data on this. We don't have one yet. But in many cases, what we found was the total number of unique clients, if we looked at not drop-ins, like not people who practice only 1 or 2 times, people who practice at least 3 or more, in the month of June, July, August, the total uniques was the same almost throughout the year once we got going. And a couple other studios that we've been working with for a while, same thing when we look at it. It's like, so even if total visits is down, the total people in the business doesn't actually drop. You get less of the like drop-in person or whatever, maybe, versus a January or something. Does revenue relax? Yeah, that's possible. But also there's a lot of studios that, Terry, to your point, their big months are in the summer. It's just change the narrative around the whole thing. What do you do to keep revenue up? That's the real question, Bridget and Carol.
I mean, the mindset shift for me was big as a studio owner from the get, and not shrinking the schedule. You could maybe pare it down a little bit, but not in a way that's like, well, we don't have enough people in the summer, so we're going to cut the schedule in half. That really, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. But we also, what I talk to my clients about is sort of like, by April, we're starting to get some messaging together about why we love to practice in the summer. It feels really good. I'm already hydrated. When I get in, like, especially in a hot studio, my body is already acclimated. So we talk about all of the things that make summer practice, great. Because like, to your point, Josh, a lot of people, that's the only time that they practice or they have time for it. So we do some messaging around it. We always did. One of our best challenges was during the summer, and it was just about keeping people actively coming on a regular basis. And I've had a lot of clients that do that challenge now too, which it's like a choose your own adventure type of challenge. so that you're practicing, the frequency is either 1 time a week, 2 times a week, or 3 times a week over the entire summer. So that's always been a big one at our studio. And yeah, so those are a couple of things. I don't know, Bridget, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't think we do anything. We just like keep trucking and I do think that's part of it. You just keep trucking, keep having great staff, keep having like an amazing, like keep creating a really great environment for those new clients. Like I do think that that's just part of it. And like Carol said, like don't cut down your menu, don't cut down your menu, your menu, your yoga menu. But then I was remembering, actually, we have done stuff. So we do something called Hot Honey Summer. My yoga studio is called Honey Yoga. And it's actually different every year. It doesn't really, I just like how it sounds. And our studio gets really hot in the summer. So like I like to just be silly about it. We don't have air conditioning. We're in San Diego, so we don't really have climate control at all. We've got some heaters now up, which is great. But one summer or a couple summers ago, it was like a challenge. So just trying to get people to go to different classes and try stuff out. And then last summer was really fun. I'm kind of feeling sad. We're not doing anything this summer, partly. It's just been super busy, but I know it's going to be fine anyway. But we did like sort of event kind of stuff. Like we did one outdoor class a month. So one in June, one in July, one in August. Previously, we've done one a week, which was also fun, like all through the summer, do an outdoor class in a park nearby. We did like, here the July events are like live music at like Slow Flow on Thursday, and there's a DJ at, this class, like a free fusion class, like all sorts of like little things just to get the energy, keep the energy alive. And yeah, I want to bring it back next summer. I feel kind of sad now that we're talking about it. We're not doing a challenge or anything like this, but like I said, I genuinely don't have any concerns about it. It's gonna be fine.
I think one of the things that's brilliant that you said is like, yeah, keep trucking. Like just that's the energy of it. You might need to, this is also market specific, right? If you're in San Diego, if you're in Florida, some of Texas, there is a seasonal shift, but it's not the same thing as Scotland. It's not the same thing as Alberta, Canada, like
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. I think of like a studio I know of in Fort Mac in Canada, just way up north, oil country, and it's like in wintertime it's literally minus 50 Celsius plus wind chill. And like it's cold. And then in summertime it's only plus 20, 25, but also there's breakup. So you get the simultaneous of like it's finally nice enough to go outside and work is slow. So and people have money. So people leave. Like it's really, that is a thing. So anyways, and that studio still makes money all the way through because there's still somebody around. But it's just like this attitude about it, the schedule, like, yeah, don't cut it down too much. That communicates the wrong thing, etc. But also lean into what's happening. That's hence the outdoor yoga thing or whatever. As you were saying that, Bridget, I was just thinking about one thing. I've only seen one studio. It was a hit studio did this. The studios have like the studio and cafe together. What's pretty uptrend right now in general are these non-alcoholic bars. Like that's a really growing trend. But some of them are working best as pop-ups instead of a permanent installation. If you don't need different licensing for that. Or imagine if you did a Friday night mocktails, like yoga classes, and then you turn your thing into like the place where you got a DJ or whatever, like, and it's summertime and you've got a patio or something. Like there are studios that have that sort of facility. Just the point just being like lean into it. What's happening culturally? How do people want to behave? What do they want to do? Lean into that, not away from it. The two things that always surprised me in the summertime in a couple of markets were how much a late night class can perform all of a sudden. There's one studio in particular, it was weird. The class time is started at 8:30 p.m. and that class was fucking slammed. Kamloops in British Columbia. Just slammed, 100% full every single time, 4 days a week, just Monday through Thursday, all summer long. Perform so bad in the winter, they drop it and do a different thing. But then like a 3:30 p.m. class off the schedule, and the 6 a.m. stays all year long, because same thing, 6 a.m. full in the summer. So just how do people live? What are they doing? Okay, Carol, question though. What about the summer sale? We talk about this every year, but let's talk about it again, because it's not just, I wish we could just be like, never have a sale. Like that's not exactly right either. But every studio owner asks this question to us, like, what about it? I should do a summer sale. What about summer sales?
Controversial. I don't know. We'll see what,
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see Terry's reaction. We tried a few things. They were not the greatest, so it's hard. I think it can be market specific as well. Like if you are in a college town, that might not be a good time, because I think what we were trying to focus on were the college kids coming home, but like to Terry's point, well, Terry I think has, like I said, ideas about this, but is college kids your demographic? It's sort of like the question. So what we don't want to do is take people off membership, right? So that's the main thing. I think that some areas have tried, like a 6-week pass at the same rate your membership. Like you break it down by a week and then decide 5-6 weeks, how much does that cost, as a one-off package. That's something that I think people are trying, and it could work. I don't know. It's sort of, I feel like it's hit or miss with most of my clients. They don't really have the winner, right? I don't think there's one size fits all in this scenario. Terry, what do you have to say?
Well, I was going to say, like you said, I've had clients had success with, they're like, oh, we got to have this package for college kids, and you have to present your ID. And I'm like, why? Let's just make it, to your point, is whatever your monthly membership is, divide it by the number of weeks. And like you said, make a 6-week, an odd number, like a 6-week, an 8-week, a 10-week, unlimited, and sell that. It's just like, here's our summer unlimited. Because to Josh's point, there are people like maybe school teachers or people that have seasonal schedules. Maybe an unlimited package during the rest of the year doesn't make sense, but in the summertime, it does make sense. Right? So that's one thing you could do, and it's not undermining, to your point, Carol. Very, very critical. You do not want to undermine your monthly unlimited membership. You don't want people canceling that to buy this thing. You could also do like a class special card where you buy 10, get a couple of extra, something like that. So those can be somewhat successful. I have a client that this is exactly what happened. We had a call on Tuesday, and another hot studio opened relatively close to one of their locations. So this other hot studio was having a summer special for college kids. And all of a sudden her staff is like, we got to have it. We got to have it. She's like, whoa, 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 time out. And that's where it's like, they're not our demographic. But what we came up with is looking at, and I really love this idea, looking at lower performing classes on the schedule. And what can we do to maybe get people into those classes? So we came up, we're doing a take on the Summer 11 challenge. And the Summer 11 is that those classes, it's going to be their regular drop-in is $40. So they're going to have a $15 drop-in for those classes only. And those are the classes that are, the underperforming classes. Yeah. And just to sort of like get kind of market, hey, here's some classes, great opportunity, this price, blah, blah, blah. And we even set it up so that people can book them online. So we got that, so they don't have to, there's no, it's going to be easy for people to book those classes.
Yeah, easy for people to come in. I like that idea, filling your off times a little bit more. You said it, Terry, already, but just to echo it, the key is to not undermine your existing membership. If I'm going to look at whatever you're doing in summer and cancel my membership to go onto that, which we see happen, that's what doesn't work. Back in the day, the most common thing was in May, people would have a summer sale where you would basically buy June, July, August, and you would get May for free. It was more or less the deal that we'd see all the time. And so every single studio, like when I say every, I mean every, without exception, 0 studios did I see they would do that. You'd get a bunch of money coming in May and then fucking nothing through the summer. And then it would confirm this belief that you have that summer's slow. And it's like, because you just charged everyone for like 30% less and there's no recurring income coming in. So it seems like that's happening. So that's what to be careful of. To that point, one, you don't have to do anything with your pricing, first off, just so it's been said. Like just run your regular pricing and keep trucking.
That's what I ended up doing the last 2 summers. I didn't do any. I just was like, this is the price. It's just here it is.
Yeah. But if you do, if you want to do something, just consider the 2 other things to consider is like, one, you can control who the thing is available to. Like rather than just having a blanket sale or whatever, make some sort of an intro thing where it's like, you have to be eligible for the intro to get this insert blank, 3-month pass, 2-month pass, 6-week pass, whatever else. That's a good time to try stuff like that. And we have seen success with that, where it's like the person who came in on a drop-in, they would have normally got 2 weeks for $40 instead, but now you've sold them $100 product and they're there for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and they bring 4 other people with them during that time. So like you've increased average LTV of that group of people.
Well, I just sort of thought, Josh, to your point about, like an intro thing, if you're not running a direct to membership, that could be a good time to maybe trial a direct membership campaign. It's like
absolutely.
Do like a really great, let's say your membership's regularly, and I'll just use simple math, $120 a month or $150 a month. Maybe you make that first month like $100 off, and then it automatically rolls into. So you could do some fun things. You could try other like intros, shake up your intro.
Do your weekly,
run
your weekly pass. You want to test a weekly membership? Summertime's a good time to do that. Imagine if just for summer, this sounds wild, but it's like, it's really not, it just sounds wild. Imagine if for summer, starting June 1, all your existing memberships, just leave them alone.
Right, nothing
and
changes.
You just only run weekly member. There's nothing else to buy. You can buy a drop-in for 30 or weekly for 35. Those are just random numbers, whatever it ends up being for your studio. Cancel anytime. That's it. Full stop. No other options, no conversation. I mean, it's an interesting time to try it, and it simplifies the message or whatever else. Gives you some time to, because then also like you've got a good 3 months to run it and see the results. I don't know. I feel like stuff like that. The key to this is if you're having summer sales, which I don't even love that wording, you don't usually want to have one moment that you're selling something. You have to keep selling stuff throughout the totality of summer. So you have to have something that facilitates more than just this one moment in time, ideally. Here's the other outside of the box thing, though, that I feel like kind of is known. I know our coaching clients hear it or whatever, but also if we're just talking about revenue, like just delete in your brain concern about practice frequency for a second. The whole like practice in the summer, come in more, like just let go of that completely and just think about revenue, which means don't have people cancel and sell shit. That's all that has to happen. If you're going to sell shit and you want more revenue, it's the same amount of effort for me to sell Bridget and Carol something that's $100 or $200 as it is for me to sell Terry something that's $1,000. So if you're going to sell something big. You might not even have a public sale, but like if during the summer, the difference in your total revenue is $3,000 down versus spring months and fall months or something like that, sell 3 annuals each month. Find the list of people, cherry pick them, personally phone them, be like, Bridget, you've been with us for like a year. Here's the best deal we got. What do you think?
Yep.
Like just and that might be taking Bridget off of auto pay, but it's only then 1 or 2 people. It's not going to impact your cash flow really, and it gets that quicker insertion. Or the only other thing that I've seen that works really well, sorry Bridget, I'll spin it to you here in a second, is on occasion, this is usually for a newer studio or a studio that has a history of summer really being a slump. Like we look back and their data supports this, where like summer revenue really drops down. And we're right on the line where it's almost too late for this. Prior to summer, everyone on the auto pay, you go after that group and we're making them an offer for a better auto pay, but it has a lock-in. It's one of the few times that we would say to do that, where it's like, you've got to do this for 4 months or 6 months, which is going to get them through summer. And the price point differential makes sense logically to them because they effectively get a couple weeks or a month for free by the time they go through that. But then it's like you solidify a group of people to make it through summer and they don't. And their price can go back up when it's done. And again, that's less of a public sale thing. It's more of an internal thing. But that's the only other thing I've seen when we talk about like solidifying revenue. The idea is to strike prior to, that's not like, oh, you're canceling, what about this? That's a like, before we get to the moment where we see a dip of a bunch of cancellations in June, let's make this offer to this group, sort of thing. Go ahead, Bridget.
I am like suddenly the owner of Honey Yoga and not a coach right now. I've just like switched back. And I'm wondering, I'm hoping that this question might be relevant to any yoga studio owner listening. If it's too specific, you guys can just let me know. But I love the idea of testing out the weekly. I love the idea of testing out direct to membership. I think that's a really fun one for summer. So we are actually doing a second type of intro offer just because of this new marketing campaign that we have going on. We're offering like super different kind of intro offer. Is it too, do you guys think it's too confusing to also then be doing like it, like we're obviously trying to get those new intro offers onto membership after this. Is it too much to be like, okay, we're doing like our regular 3 weeks for 55, we're doing our regular, and then we're also doing like 14 for 14, which we don't do on our website. This is only on like the ads that go out. And then also, are we getting those people onto this, like this weekly membership, or are we trying to do annual, do you know what I mean? Okay, coach me.
This is a good question. These are great because I think everyone learns from these conversations. And admittedly, I've had to learn it, and us as coaches have to learn it vicariously through coaching and seeing like what happens when we pull this lever or that lever. And I think also, let me just preface all of this by saying owners can get themselves confused sometimes because some of this stuff seems like it goes against some other principles we coach to. The example being, I vehemently coach towards the idea that you should not have more than one intro offer. It doesn't work. Every studio that we see that's permanently running more than one intro offer, it fucks up their conversions. Their team sucks at selling it. It undermines things. You don't want 2 intros. But having a special deal that's being offered through a specific funnel or marketing play is not the same thing. That's a separate thing altogether. So that, no problem. And the best way I can relate this conceptually, and to your question, so then do we also test this other thing or whatever? Sure, but you can only test like one thing at a time. So if you have this special offer going, that's its own funnel, and you just have to have a plan for what that path is. If then also just publicly and in the studio, you're going to do direct to membership, then do that. But if you're like intro, direct to membership, week pass, special offer, your team can't manage it. Like it's too confusing. You don't know who you're talking to. You want your sales conversations and your follow-up to be simple. So that's where I would be concerned. But the best thing actually to relate to this is back in the day when everyone was doing living social and Groupon. And so they got a lot of
Keep it simple, sweetheart.
keep it simple, sweetheart. Right. Groupon got a bad rap, and here's the really people don't like to hear this. The reason why in the boutique fitness industry Groupon got a bad rap is because the owners fucked it up. They used it wrong. Like versus ClassPass now, where it's like it's not really the owner's fault, it's just terrible. Like just Groupon really is or was a potentially, it's not saying you had to do it, but like you had enough control and power, and is owners actually messed it up by putting stupid deals on there, and more importantly, not having a follow-up plan. Anyways, this is a long-winded way of saying with a Groupon, the technique would be you're treating it more like an intro, like that's the target audience it's going to, and it's a first offer, which means it needs to be an irresistible offer. So it needed to be something that was like, it just made sense to buy it. So then you would, and then your 14 for 14 or whatever campaign might be in this category too, where like if someone came in on Groupon, we do, a good Groupon that sold well was like 10 classes in 60 days. But then on day one, when they first came in, there was an upgrade offer in studio. Groupon didn't get a cut of that upgrade, and that upgrade helps to transition through. So it's like it had its own sales funnel associated with it. That upgrade offer, as an example, could be your direct to membership. So imagine if someone comes in, let's use your Honey Yoga as a specific example. Hey, I've got this 14 for 14. We're like, it's so awesome you're here on that 14 for 14. We're excited to have you. We do have a one-time offer because it's your first day here. Because it's summer, membership, like upgrade this to membership and get X that you can't get otherwise. Special deal, special price, special bonus thing, whatever it is. The key to it is it has to be that like, this is a one-time offer thing. This isn't like do your 14 days and then we talk about this. This is right now, you're here. Let me know what you think. So you need a team that can deliver that message, but that works. And you don't need everyone to take it. If you get 100 people, if 20 of them take it, like that's good. What would that offer be? I'm just thinking now. Is it $14 for 14 days? Is that the hook?
That's the new that's what the marketing guys
Right.
suggested. Mm-hmm.
Just so everyone listening hears it too, what Bridget's talking about with this marketing company she's working with too, this example of this offer, 14 for 14 is fucking insane. Like it might as well be free.
I wouldn't do that as my normal intro offer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're doing is smart because you're testing something.
Yeah.
The question of like, what's the best offer to put out there for the public? Who knows in your market? You've got to just try something and then get it in front of people and see what hits. So I'm saying that out loud, that like it doesn't mean that because Bridget's doing it, go and do that. It means like there's a bigger strategy here that's happening. But imagine if, okay, I've bought 14 days for $14. I come in and we're like, hey, upgrade to membership for $14 more. So you'll get the full month for now $28 basically, but the offer is $14. I'm like, you get another 2 weeks for $14 on membership and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Cancel anytime. Or if you want to be really intense with it, if the goal is I just want more bodies practicing at a high frequency for the summer, you'd be like, if you say yes today, it's $1 more or something stupid like that for your first whole month of membership.
Yeah, like make it 15 and you're on a membership kind of thing. Yeah, that's really interesting.
One more dollar and this covers your whole first month. So you got an extra 2 weeks for $1, but this is membership and it keeps going. You want to cancel because you hate us after the month? Fine, cancel. I don't care.
Live your life.
But like, if the goal is if the goal is I just want people on membership and I just want people practicing, Like, what have you got to lose?
Wow. Okay. Love
This
that.
sounds like wheeling and dealing, but we've got to think of the context of the person receiving the information.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry.
The asterisk to this, I love this idea, but and the asterisk to this is you got to have a team capable of doing it.
Yeah.
That you have to have, and this kind of goes back to the team, whether it's if you don't have front desk, it's the teachers. The offer is only going to be as successful as however your team is trained.
True.
Whatever you could have just like the most insane deal out there, but if the team is not on board with it, if they're not trained, it's going to fail. I mean, you could have like free and it would probably still fail because the whole asterisk to all of this, any of these pricing conversations and any of the things we're talking about, is the team has to understand what's the whys behind it and bought into it, and you have to have the process in place to train them to sell this thing competently and efficiently. And if you don't, I'd start there first. Before any pricing conversation, before you do anything with your pricing, before you try any different intro offer, any different anything. If the problem is the staff is not selling, changing the offer is not going to solve that.
Yeah. Great.
Until you solve that problem, everything else is academic.
It'll fall short.
It'll fall flat. I think part of it, you said there's no such thing as a perfect intro offer, which is 100% true. There's as many intro offers out there as there are businesses. The difference between studios who are really doing well and those who are struggling is, I feel, probably, other than some factors, it's one thing and one thing only, is their staff trained to sell? Because if they're not, it really doesn't matter what you do.
That's a bold statement, and I don't disagree with it. Look, there's more to running a business, we all know, but Terry's right. Carol, you're nodding your head too. I don't know what your take on this is, but if you've got it, and look, for a single location Pilates studio, reformer, you got 10 reformers in your room. The typical scenario in a smaller market would be just the instructor, just the coach, like signs the class in and does the class. That's it. If all you had was one more person there dedicated to front desk and sales, or at a yoga studio, if you've got, let's say you're running 6 yoga classes a day, 7 days a week, average, you need 4 front desk people, not even, but like, let's say 4, who are well trained. Like, what they can produce for the business, to Terry's point, is it's so much more than you think. If they're trained, like, you've got to train the shit out of them. That's true. But just, man, sorry, Carol, you go ahead. You know this very well because.
Oh no, I was gonna checking some messages there with Bridget. So yeah, I mean, this is the funniest part, is that when we go to studios or talk to studio owners a lot, the pitch isn't even going out. Like, it's as simple as just like teaching them how to even say the words. But yeah, I agree. Like, none of this is going to work unless your staff is trained, for sure. So, I mean,
but dude, you're saying it so perfectly. You and I have seen this, right? Like, it doesn't, the training, like, make them rock stars at sales at the front desk. Absolutely. But in the beginning, it's like you have this insane deal. It's $1 for your first month of membership. And then we go to the studio. We're looking at the KPIs, and the KPIs tell us, like, no one's buying this. And goes, I don't get it. It's such an insane deal. Like, why would you not buy this? And we sit there, and you're like, nobody said it. Like, no one is pitching it. No one's even flubbing the pitch. Like, no one's even, like, it's so, sometimes it's so, you could totally do it complete ass words, the delivery and everything. Carol, you're here for your first time. Like, you should definitely buy this intro. Just buy it. Give me your credit card. That could be your pitch. It's this deal. And you would get some results, but like, that's not,
no,
that's not even happening. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Speaking of which, I gotta get bounced. I gotta get ready for my call coming up with a client that exact problem is they have no problem getting people in the door. And they just
Conversion.
can't. It's the conversion.
We'll fix it.
I mean, seriously, it's conversion. So anyway, bye guys. We'll see you later.
CJ.
Hi, Terry.
So one thing that I think is interesting in the larger boutique fitness, wellness, let's call it studio industry. Can we just start calling it studio? And that's what we're talking about. In studios in general. Within the micro niches, Pilates, Legree, bar, yoga, different styles of yoga, a little bit hit, you know, pole, whatever. There's like this ebb and flow of popularity. One thing that I find interesting right now is where is boutique fitness and wellness going? What's popular? But then also it's like why something popular. So there's a two-parter point here. But Bridget, maybe we talk about your experience first. I mean, the first thing I would just comment on is like Pilates, which is not new and has been pretty dope for a long time. And I feel like it has an interesting arc because I see Pilates as having this pretty gradual build up arc. It hasn't done this big spike. It's now starting to do this spike where Pilates and then by extension Legree, Megaformer is a different thing. You really could categorize it as its own thing altogether. But like they're having their moment in the sun. It's cool right now. And rightly so, good product. But that's interesting. And I think there's it's a slightly different experience when you go into a Pilates or any sort of Megaformer type studio. What's been your experience, Bridget? And why are people going there? What are they looking for?
Well, actually, I originally was going to talk about the intro offer thing because I went to these two Pilates studios that are having this like amazing moment in the sun, like you just were talking about, Josh, and like we talked about the last couple roundups, I feel like. And like that's great, but I was not pitched one single thing. There wasn't even a front desk person at the place I went yesterday. And then the place I went before, there was a front desk person. She clearly did not want to get out of her chair. I walked in and literally like basically was like, please help me. I've never been here. I don't know what to do. And she like didn't get up and then she just kept being like, yeah, so that's it. She didn't even say hello, and she wasn't not nice. I just walked in and she just goes, and I was like, are you waiting for my name? Like, I don't get what's going on here. And then in the course of this like awkward conversation I had with her, where I also had to buy a $16 pair of socks because it's studio policy that I need grip socks at this other place. And she would not get out of her chair, and wouldn't help me at all finding the studio or anything. And then she like said quietly when I was in the middle of a sentence, something like, we also have memberships. And like it was so quiet and so not important that I literally didn't respond because I was already it was like nothing. She did not seem to care at all if I did anything beyond this drop-in, and no one pitched me on the way out. No, and I was just standing there in front of her for a while waiting for her. It was crazy. And then this other place yesterday they didn't even have a front desk person. I couldn't even pay for my water and towel because I just wrote it down on a little sheet of paper or whatever. But anyway, that was actually where I was going with that, just to they're not even getting the bare minimum out of the conversation. So anyway,
and the like writing down on a piece of paper or whatever.
Yeah.
And look, dude, like we're all from the yoga world. This is
Oh yeah, it reminded me of my roots. I was like, God, I haven't written down on a piece of paper here in a while.
Yeah.
This is like fun and back to
we have seen this. Like This is normal. But like the hard truth is, and I think it's probably amplified culturally right now, tell me no one's stealing something. at that studio.
I almost did. Not because I wanted to, but because
Right.
I accidentally almost did.
Yeah. And like, the thing that's weird about this is we wouldn't call it stealing. Like old school in the yoga studio, oh, they got a water, like, oops, you know, or like, oh, well, mat and towel rental, they're supposed to be $2 each, but like, you know, they're just sitting there. So it's not really stealing. You're like, yes, it is. Like, that's called stealing. Like, if you just take the thing. And it's like internal culturally acceptable. Anyways, weird. These little protocols. Here's the question though. Okay, regardless of the sales stuff, like missed opportunity there for sure. In both cases, you're not the best test of this because you're a confident studio owner yourself who does fitness, whatever, you know. So you could just decide that you love it and go back. But like, what's the compelling part of those experiences that would make you want to come back and then sign up for membership and practice 3 days a week?
I did like both of my experiences. I knew, I could just tell, and again, this might just be because of my vast experience, but I knew that it was a really consistent product. Like I knew that I could tell that this was like the format of the class and that I was going to get it. The teacher knew what they were doing. I think that's a big thing in yoga studios. You have a lot of teachers who even a layman can tell that this is a new teacher. She's a little awkward.
Yeah.
She doesn't command the room. So they have that down pat. Everything was very streamlined. Like that was, and I find that comforting. I don't know. I assume the average person does too. It's part of the reason we have so many rules at the studio for our staff is because we want things to feel really consistent and streamlined for clients. And then beyond what happened in the actual space, I can imagine, and even I felt this a little bit too, like just because everyone's fucking talking about Pilates and I want to know what everyone's talking about. I want to be like a Pilates gal. Like, well, you know, like that sounds fun. It sounds like I was having a really fun time at Pilates and, you know, cool. I'm in.
I think the product in general, in my experience in Pilates, is solid. Like it's foundationally solid. To me, because we've already compared it with yoga and just whatever, like it's reminiscent of, I even hate describing it this way, but traditional lineage in yoga, you know, like in the beginning when studio culture started, you usually had it based off of a small number of pretty strong lineages that foundationally trained teachers in a certain way, foundationally had consistency in the product. Like there was an angle for it. And then that's what's dissolved over time. And for better or worse, it's no commentary on that, but like, you know, you knew you're at a Baptiste studio or you're at a Bikram studio, or you're at an Ashtanga style studio or Ashtanga-ish or a Jiva Mukti or a whatever. Like it just, there was an angle it was based off of. Even if you were just a flow studio generically, you would in the deeper description be like, this is the type of flows that we offer, 1, 2, 3. Like we're forest, you know, whatever. So Pilates kind of has that right now where it's like the core principles of it and the base product I think is really solid. So I don't know, as a consumer, that's super important. What the yoga world could take a page out of that book from is like the idea that people want this unlimited variety all the time or whatever is bullshit. That's just not actually true in the way that yoga delivers it. And because like look at the silly example would be CrossFit, where CrossFit has got it right in that there's this forced adaptation through constantly changing different things all the time. But then also, let's be honest, it's the same thing every single time. Like there's a limited number of things that happen in the CrossFit class, and it's just CrossFit. You know, like that's just what it is. So it's both consistent and variety. And I think that's where Pilates is kind of in that genre right now. But I guess if you look at it through the lens of like a brand new person too, the insinuation in your story, tell me if I read this wrong, is that you're going to do the work for them, in that you're going to make the decision, I want to try Pilates. I got here. I dug the class. I liked the class. I'm going to buy the thing. I'm going to go online and buy it myself, or I'm going to come up to you and force you to purchase it. And by the sounds of it, in one of those cases, they wouldn't have even been able to sell it to you. They wouldn't have known what to do. Like,
Yeah.
you would have had to go online and do it yourself. So whether or not you continue, whether or not you buy the thing, is completely dependent on your actions only.
So this is actually something I was going to ask you guys about, in just like trends and stuff, and whether you see this as like, it seems like in my limited, but now, I've been to 2 studios, totally different actually too, in some ways that I want to talk about eventually, probably not today, but they both rely heavily on like texts and emails and stuff. So I'm getting blown the fuck up by both of these studios. And actually, it's weird, not relevant. This is another issue, but yeah, so it seems like they are thinking their plan is, we're not going to have any in-person sales process at all, even though at one studio they did have a front desk person, but she did not seem focused on sales except for the sale of the socks. And so yeah, it seems like that's the plan, that like that's what's going to happen. So do people think that that's the next step of sales, and are they ready?
Yes, they think it's the next step. Carol, I'm really curious about your opinion on this. If we look wider culture, less human interaction because less tension. It's why simultaneously in real life human connective events and places are the status symbol now. We can talk about that in a second. They show status, not physical things anymore. And so simultaneously that's happening but I don't want to have to look you in the face and say no, because that would make me uncomfortable. We're shying away from that culturally. I'm super stereotyping here, wildly stereotyping, but especially in the younger age bracket. So, and that is fascinating. I think that a partial misinterpretation of that cultural normity is that we're then going to build the system that continues on that path, assuming that that results in something that we want. And in business, what I see is that that's not true. If you put my studio right next to your studio, and I have 4 or 5 front desk, well-trained people who are super great customer service, welcoming, look you in the eye, ask you the blunt question, like can actually have the conversation, and we know for sure get to people, and you just send texts and emails, who are you betting on closes more sales per month? Like, it's not, in my mind, it's not even a question. I would bet all the money in the bank on the studio with the team that's there. And it's just because what hasn't changed is the hard wiring of the biology of the human being. Nothing will be more impactful than Carol and I physically in each other's presence, with proper communication, eye contact, body language. Like that is the highest power scenario. So now what I would say though is friction around purchasing, difficulty, the necessity of it being a high pressure environment. Let's go sit down over here and talk about memberships. All of that shit's gone. That would not build anything in that direction at all. I bought a truck last year over WhatsApp. And the reason I bought it from the dealership I bought from was because they would sell it to me over WhatsApp. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to phone you. No, I'm not making an appointment. No, I'm not fucking coming in. You've got these 3 trucks. Here's the price. Like, what's the deal here? Tell me about that one. Cool. That's the one I want. And they're like, I'm really sorry, we have to jump on Zoom legally to sign the contract together for this to happen. But like, that's it. That's the only thing we have to do. I'm like, great. Everyone else like, well, you know, we've got to get you to come in and talk to you. I'm like, no, like that doesn't have to happen. So that's the balance that I would say, that this leaning into text message, email to do all the sales stuff. Yes, but it doesn't mean you don't do the in-person part. Sorry, I got more to say, but I'll keep ranting for 3 hours on this because it's like really interesting. Carol, I know you've got
I
a
agree
good
with
take on this.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, just for the fact when you're looking at the two studio scenario, you know, just for the fact of like Bridget coming in and being like, where do I go? Like, I mean, that alone, you need either a human or some kind of system in place. It's like, well, if it's an AI thing, this is where you're gonna go. You have to build that system. But anyway, and at first I was like, yeah, somebody needs to be there. And then you said the car scenario. I just bought a car online, didn't talk to anybody.
Yep.
The last month, I just, you know, contracts, I didn't even have to get on a Zoom call. Same thing. I didn't want any of that BS, you know, in person. So I guess there's a balance, but in that those are two completely different, you know, things.
Different products.
Yeah. So, um, but yeah, I think that I have seen, especially in like a franchise situation, where the studios kind of rely on, they're going to have the back end like sales team people, you know, that aren't at the front desk. They're not having that warm and fuzzy conversation. And then they just rely on the phone calls, the emails, the texts, like they have that in place. And I guess they're just banking on that with enough people coming in that they can turn enough people into members that it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I tend to agree that over time and just the sense of like, I do feel like we all still need community and that connection. And so having people there in front of you that you can ask questions of or would sell you something in person is going to be the winner in the long run.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Carol. That like the sale, it's not just the sales conversation. It is also the fact that I did not feel actually at the studio I went to yesterday that didn't have a front desk at all. They did a better job with this than the place that had the front desk staff and the instructor because the instructor was super nice to me. She used my name in class. She showed me how to use the machine. Like she came over every single time we had to change our springs. At some point I was like, this is crazy. You don't need to do this every time for me. But she was changing my springs every time, giving me like, you know, gave me a high five at the end. Good job, Bridget, you know, like, and that was a lot better, but I still didn't know where to put my shoes when I walked in. And that was stressful. To me, that's like very stressful if I don't know where to put my shoes when I walk into a place. And that's the thing, which is such a great point, is like, who even cares about the sale? It's not, it actually wouldn't have been super appropriate for the place yesterday to make a sales conversation because I'd already bought their intro offer. But it would have been super appropriate for someone to be like, oh my God, hey, it's your first time. Just put your shoes anywhere, you know, like class will be over in a minute, go in. And that to me is like just as much important for my decision, which whether or not to buy.
That's part of the sale, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
It is.
the other thing that I think owners miss is as soon as we say the word sales, you only think about this like weird high pressure, give me your money conversation, and that's really not what it is. A sale closes when I believe in the value that you're offering, aka the transformation and the aspirational identity, when I have confidence in my decision and clarity in my decision. And the salesperson, call them whatever you want, is a component of that. And so the other detail here is just offering good customer service and being welcoming and making you comfortable in the environment. That's what you're buying. Like that's part of why I would sign. What if it's weird and not nice and I know what to do when someone's kind of rude? It doesn't matter how, like the class would have to be so absurdly good for you to not want to keep doing it. Like why? No one wants to be in an uncomfortable environment. It's a weird thing. Anyways, I just feel like the human connection part, the community part is necessary. Third spaces are a missing element. Studios do represent that. From a sales business growth standpoint, the trend of relying on you, Bridget, to do all the work, and or the automations and texts of the system or whatever to do all the work, I think is a missing. It's a silly game. It doesn't mean I wouldn't do them. The one thing I would take from this is, how do people want to communicate? Or maybe a better question is, how do they not want to communicate? We already know I don't want to go sit in a room like the gyms and have you break down memberships and have it in pressure and have a closed door. Like that actually, if just describing it like that, that is an unsafe environment. I wouldn't train my children to go in with a stranger to a small room and close the door where we're talking about how to take, like, to sign up for something. Like, holy shit. So we don't want that. I also don't want a bunch of emails. I don't even look at them. Emails go to my personal email inbox. Like, I don't like to see them. I don't even open my email. I barely open my work email. So sending me a bunch of emails, that's not going to work.
Mm-mm.
If you're spamming me with annoying shit in text, that's going to piss me off. But I would prefer to text back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't answer phone calls. So that part of it they've got right, I think, in terms of like what's the cultural movement here.
Yeah.
That part of it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I bypassed the first, I do not know how, and neither does the front desk, but at the place I went a couple days ago with the front desk and the socks, whatever. They actually have it that you do have to do one of those little intro sessions and that was like what we were talking about the other day with like the 30 minutes. And I assume they make a sale to you at that time when you come in and do the free like 30-minute session. And I did not want to do that. And it made me not sign up to this. They have both of the places I was at have multiple locations. I think one's a franchise and one is just multiple locations, but I did not want to do that and it made me not go. And then for some reason, I went a different way on the website and just could book to the next one. So then I showed up and thank God I didn't go to that little 30-minute thing. I would have been so bored. This was the easiest class I have attended in any modality, in any it was the easiest thing. I did not need a 30-minute explainer on how to do this. And I'm just not the kind of person that wants 30 minutes one-on-one with a stranger. Like I just couldn't be less interested.
In the Pilates world, that's a fascinating technique that they've used for a long time. I get why that's normal. I wouldn't even say to not do it in your studio, but it is a fascinating thing. Like if we look at it from a business building sales function, that's really high friction. And you could debate as high customer service too, but I don't know. Is
Because you do both.
is it really that complicated? Is it really that dangerous?
Could you offer it to someone? Because I know like there were some older ladies in class who my sister, who was also with me, said she sees them a lot and they still don't seem to be like, I'm not ragging on older ladies. It's just that they happen to be older ladies, but they go a lot and they still seem to have a little, like they just weren't nailing every move, let's say. And so they might be a perfect person for that 30-minute and they might be really interested in that 30-minute because, and also they, might not be really familiar in a studio space. Like I am not the kind of person who needs or wants that. So could there be both? Like, could you offer the free 30-minute?
Well, and is to your point before though too, and or is it like, no, everyone must do this to guarantee a certain whatever, and that's where our sales process takes place.
Yeah.
In which case, the fact that you bypass it should have been impossible because it means you are outside of their sales process. So interesting. I think let's take this another direction, just because we're kind of at the end of time here too. Well, we've already opened the can of worms. Pilates, Legree, like it's having, or Megaformer really more specifically, like it's having its day in the sun. It's fascinating to see, awesome, good product. But the other things that are happening that I find really fascinating right now are that there's this cultural movement. Let me back us up. Reminder that we all know there's three things that people buy, ourselves included. Number one is transformation. Number two then is community, but really community is more like a result of participation. It's something you want. It helps you be sticky. It's feeling like you're part of something. It's an identity thing. And then the third is status. And status has multiple components to it. I say this to say boutique fitness and wellness is a high status thing. It always has been, but right now it's actually moving up in status. It's not, the cool thing isn't to work hard, make a bunch of money, and have a dope sports car. That might also be a component of it, but now it's, do you actually have control of your life, including your health? That's high status. It's not, it's frowned upon, and even there's a negative viewpoint in some cases of the super stereotype of the mid 50s to 60-year-old fat old man with money with arm candy. Like that's a really negative image. And so the counter, that's not high status, regardless of what they have. So what's shifted is this health part, and then by association, time. Time is now high status. And so what represents time is, do you have the time to take care of yourself? Therefore, can you show up in real life? Like this is the counter Peloton movement. Yeah, I can go on my Peloton every morning and like that's my whatever, but it's higher status for me to go to the Pilates studio 3 days a week or to Legree. And I have the time in my life to afford the child care, the not working time, the travel time, whatever, to make that happen. And I paid the $250 a month for that to happen. That's higher status now. There's a whole aesthetic. So the larger industry around it, the big thing is like making a place that isn't aesthetic. The way I would say this is your place needs to be, if you want to be status associated, it needs to be the kind of place that I would want to be seen. And real blunt here, like hard gut punch, that's a major component of what a lot of yoga studios have completely lost. You've become the place that I don't want to be seen. I'm doing my personal work and the product's good and I feel good, but there's no status associated with it. I'm not going there to be seen anymore. Not in all, there are studios that hit that too, but like versus Legree, that is a place you want to be seen right now. Like that's part of the uptrend part of it. And then the culminating point here is, it's why just recently Nike is now building physical studios. What do they call it? My note has it here. The Nike, well, whatever. It's like, it's a hit gym, but it's under the Nike brand. But if you go look at them, like everything looks Nike. It's one color, like it has an aesthetic. They're building that because it's about associating the status that comes with it. It's an interesting play. I think it's a smart one. Whether it lasts long run or not, I don't know, like whether that makes sense for them. But you got to think of, if a billion-dollar company like Nike sees that it's smart for us to invest in physical spaces and hiring trainers to do a hit workout because of how that builds their brand. Like, do you think that they're worried about how much money they make off one of these studios? Like, I'm sure they want to be profitable, but like, no, that's not that move. That's a brand move. So fascinating. I don't know. I'd be curious what you guys think about this.
Hmm. I mean, I'm kind of blown away by the time as being status, and I totally agree now that you pointed it out. It's so true to be able to like, because I even saw this in my own studio. I'd be like, what do they do that they can come here, at like 11:30 every day and like drive that nice car and, make it to yoga? It does become that status symbol. And I think you hit the nail on the head too, that a lot of the yoga studios right now are not, they're not taking care of their spaces in a way that sort of cultivates that cool vibe or like the place that you want to be seen. That's absolutely true too. I've got to like wrap my head around the Nike thing. I know two people, really good friends of mine that worked for Nike for a long time. And I know that they had they had a gym at the Nike headquarters that they would go to. And I mean, they had beautiful facilities. So I'm sure it's going to be really great. And these facilities are awesome. And so I could see it being like a really good, I mean, you're going to wear Nike when you go there. You're going to buy Nike when you go there.
Yep.
You would think that they probably have excellent trainers that they can, not buy, pay to be there.
Well, buy. I think they are buying them. If you're in a market, I think there's one in Austin we said before, right? Like if you were Nike and you're going to open a studio in Austin and you want great hit trainers, like what are you doing? You're fucking putting a casting call out.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay 20% above market value. You're going to find the rock stars.
Or like you go, like University of Texas is there, hook 'em. You would go find a trainer, like some like of the football players there or something like that. Like they would, like there's celebrities there, so you could make that happen. I would have gone to a class at the time when I lived there. So yeah, interesting. It's really.
I think part of this too is like, this is part of the internet culture shift that we've gone through, right? Like it used to be, I'll give two examples. The bag one I'm going to be bad at, so Carol, I need your help on here. But like the Chanel bag idea, it was like to even see one or to know someone who had one or to get to touch one, like that was a special thing. It wasn't, the luxury element was the rarity of it, right? Right, a Birkin bag, whatever. Like any of these brands where the high fashion element of it was the limitation to get it. And it's why true luxury brands are names you've never heard of that don't have a logo on them at all, and they actually control supply and demand. The other example would be cars, where it's like to own a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or whatever else. What started to happen now with like Rolls-Royce and a couple of other hypercar brands is you can't just buy one. You have to ask them if you're allowed to buy it. And they say no. They're like, nah, I don't care if you have the money for this. I don't want our brand associated with you driving this around. That's the thing. And that's them fighting back against status. What social media and internet culture has done has created the scenario where now you get to see these things all the time. You would have never, like where I grew up, you never saw a Lamborghini. Now you actually in person see Lamborghinis all the time, one. And two, you see a Lamborghini online every single day if you want to. And a walkthrough and someone talking about it and showing you the features. There's no mystique associated with it anymore. So the status lowers as part of that. On the other hand, who do you know who's like, on my Wednesday night, I just got nothing going on, so I'm going downtown to this bookstore where we're going to do this reading together and spend 2 hours debating this chapter. Like that sounds weird, but that is really high status now. He's like, who the fuck can do that? Or someone who's like, I don't work Fridays afternoon. I make as much money as you, and I work 35 hours a week. Or I go to Pilates, or I go to my yoga class at 11 a.m. and I take my time in the shower afterwards and get all primped up, and then I stop and have coffee across the street first before I leave to move to my next thing. That's high status. Like it's a really interesting play. But from a boutique fitness standpoint, I'm rambling now. I feel like the aesthetic associated with it being the place that people want to be seen, that's the angle that can be considered. Now that's missed often in studios.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for some studio owners because some people just aren't trendy like that. And I would say sometimes yogis over index for people who aren't trendy like that.
Yes.
And I think that that's tough. And this is why I have always from the beginning, even like before I, had a profitable, sustainable, successful studio, I knew that having a studio that looked good and that had good branding was really important. And that was one of the main things we spent a lot of money on when we first opened. And I think it's even truer now. And actually, my brand needs a big refresh now because it's been almost a decade. But yeah, I think this is tough. And this is definitely something, just like me, on a practical note, for studio owners, it's important to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And if aesthetics, like style, coolness is not your thing, like consider who can I bring in? Nowadays, I bring in my sister for all of my like aesthetic choices. I always ask her because she is cooler than me and she's got a better eye than me. And she has, and she brings me in for other stuff. And so yeah, so I think that is tough for a lot of studio owners, but it's something you can still like there's ways around it if it's not your bag.
Well, and to be clear, this to me is probably more about definition of your brand than it is about saying you have to be a certain way. Like if you go look at the videos and photos of Nike studios, because we brought that up, it's not an aesthetic I don't like the aesthetic, but I get what they're going for, And so there's this generic aesthetic associated with yoga studios, associated with Pilates studios or whatever else. You just have to realize, are you just falling into the generic aesthetic and then it sort of just diminishes over time, or did you actually create your own thing? And that doesn't have to be so extreme, but the point would be like, inside of culture, there are multiple aesthetics that are popular at the same time. It's the definition. I think what yoga studios are probably, I suppose the word is guilty of right now, is a identity crisis. They don't know what they are. I'm trying to be this and that. I want to be inclusive, but then also powerful. I want to do this and I want to also do that. I want to say take it easy, but also like, but wait, the word means force. I want to say like never push, but also like you got to put some intensity into it. And we're struggling to have that communication be clear. The extension of that is the aesthetic too. It's like, well, yeah, I want everything to be this color and I want it to be bright and open, but I also want people to feel like kind of gritty, let's work hard in here. But then also like I'm going to be cheap and just print out a sign out of my own printer with the wrong font and just tape it to the wall, and then that compounds over years of time. It's a lack of definition that I feel like makes that aesthetic hard. The status part comes from identity though. If you look at like the three types of problems that someone has, you have an internal problem, an external problem, and a philosophical problem. And so internal problem is I'm this person, I feel like this, I need to become this person, I got to become my aspirational identity. The external problem is an outside force that I'm fighting against. The philosophical problem is the belief. Status and therefore identity is associated with that. That's where the status comes in. The high culture status part is I believe I should be healthy and have longevity and have freedom of movement and I should look good and I should feel confident in who I am and have this aesthetic for myself be well put together. Like that's the status component of it. So from a studio perspective, it's like there's multiple details of how you formulate that, but what are you? What's the identity that I can associate with? If you look at gym culture, it's actually getting more extreme now, which is really fascinating. But you could have two gyms will make the equal amount of money. One of them is like the dingy in the basement. It's a little dirty. Everything's fucking dinged up. It's just a bunch of free weights and just a bunch of people just moving weight around with their headphones on and pissed off look on their face wearing ripped t-shirts. That's some of the most popular gyms on the planet are like that. And then there's the gyms in like Miami where they're strategically built for gym influencer culture. Everything is perfect and beautiful, and it has every machine you've ever thought of. And there's actually built onto the equipment a spot for your phone so you can film yourself. Like they've just, and people are doing hard work in there. Same thing, same products, same whatever, but like different status association one to the other. I think a lot of UCOs, they've forgotten which one they are. Legree's doing this well. Megaformers in general are doing this well right now. I think it's part of why they're having their day in the sun. This whole slow twitch, muscle fiber, long, lean muscle, core associated ass kicking workout thing. But it's funny because they're not showing, no one's standing afterwards like this, you know, like it's, and it's not the yogi doing the handstand either. Like what's the Legree image?
Like a slim blonde woman. Offense, Carol.
None taken.
No, I'm joking. It's obviously not offensive. These people are beautiful, but it's like a slim blonde woman with like expensive clothes on. That's what I
And
see.
what's their body look like?
It's
I
like
mean, other
slim.
than
It
other
has
than slim.
tone. It definitely has like tone and definition. It's not jacked though. It's like long, lean muscles.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, which is what they promote, but like
Yeah.
we say Legree or Pilates and that's the image.
Yeah.
It's like if there's someone who's fit, they clearly have visible tone muscle.
Yeah.
And so then you got to compare that though, like gym woman doing fitness show. That image is like someone who's pretty jacked now, which is a change, by the way. It looked a lot different in the 2000s and definitely in the 90s. That woman now, we're talking about like steroid use level, like muscles, whether they use steroids or not. That's a whole nother conversation. And then the yoga image now, what's interesting is what's currently the Pilates image was the yoga image. Now it's not. Go on any website, and I guarantee you there's two yoga images. There's a woman who's thin enough that you're like, you're a little too thin.
Mm.
And then there's someone who is overweight.
Yeah.
Those are the two images. We're generalizing. There's more images than that. And I mean, yes, yoga for everybody and what you look like isn't even necessarily the goal of yoga on any level whatsoever. But just from a business perspective, what are we selling? What's the image? I find it fascinating. Cool.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
there's something to chew on.
yeah, exactly.
There's something to chew on for a little bit. I think that's a wrap for this week's weekly roundup. You can listen every Thursday morning right here on Facebook, or you can subscribe to Studio Cult TV. We're on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen from. And we do check the comments. So send us a note down below. What do you think? What's the high status thing that you're seeing in the fitness world right now? What's the trend? What are the cool kids doing? I want to hear about it. Other than that, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.